It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed. It's Christmas here on the wonderful world of Tatooine, snowing as well. And we've got the whole week's worth of news from the Star Wars galaxy to discuss with you guys tonight. So, what have we got in store? First up, we've got the new teaser for the Book of Boba Fett called Message, and we're going to have a look at the posters connected with that show as well. Ming-Na Wen's been talking about it. We're going to hear what she's been saying. Tempest Runner, the High Republic audio drama from the summer, is going to be coming out on hardback in the spring. We'll be looking forward to that. Ivanna Sakhno, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find out when we speak to Mark Newbold in just a moment. Is rumoured to be joining Ahsoka. We'll be discussing that. Out of Print have announced their latest and last in the line of the Thrawn Ascendancy Lesser Evil Collector's Edition. We'll get a closer look at that amazing cover. And Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser has been previewing, and we'll be seeing what Walt Disney Imagineer have been giving us a little glimpse of that. And back for the first time in a while, we'll be going to Jabba's Court because we have a big discussion topic ahead. HASLAB Rancor. Will it reach 9,000? We'll be chatting about the last minute upgrade to the offer and whether that's going to tip the balance. Most important aspect of the show, as I lose a headphone. There we go. And technology is broken. Can't get to the most important aspect of the show. Here we go, eventually. Subscribe, ring the bell. If you're on YouTube, like us, share the content, follow us. If you're on Facebook, most importantly, we need your comments. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, any comments you give, we'll add to the show as we go along. We'll try and discuss your thoughts as well as our own. And as I said, joining me this week from Fantatrax.com, Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Mark Newbold. How are you, Mark?
I'm very well. I thought I was the most important aspect of the show, Brian.
Never.
Okay, that's fair.
Never. We all know our worth.
That's true. That's very true.
How have you been this week?
Very well. My headphones are staying on, unlike yours. I'm very
Unlike
good.
Mine.
I've got my. Look at me. I've got my Christmas Grogu jumper on.
Oh, very nice.
Representing. So yeah, ready for Christmas. Not as ready as you are with the graphics, but yes, very good. No, I'm very good. It's been a busy week on the site, and new podcast episodes coming out. There's an episode of Planet Leia out next week, which I'm really looking forward to people hearing. So yeah, nice and busy. All good.
Coming up on Making Tracks, what have we got goodness wise?
Oh, loads of good stuff. We've been at a few conventions lately. So we were at Wales Comic Con, we were down in Croydon. We've been all around the place, and myself and Mark have been chatting around these interviews with all the latest news. But I think this week's episode coming up, we've got Brian Herring and John Morton. We recently had Dennis Lawson, which was a real coup because he never speaks to, or generally doesn't speak to, fan sites. We had 5 minutes with him, and Robert Watts last week as well. So yeah, some good little interviews coming. But yeah, on the run up to Christmas now, we're ready. I don't know where this year's gone.
What about Start Your Engines? Is that coming in 2022?
Yeah, I found the keys. I couldn't find them. I put them down for 2 years and never picked them up. So yes, finally, me and Paul Naylor will be launching Start Your Engines. We're going to get a bunch recorded because they're that wonderful, not time critical type of podcast, which is the best kind. So we can record them and then put them out when we're ready. So yes, that's definitely coming very soon.
Something to look forward to for next year.
Yes, let's hope.
Something that's going to be happening before next year, hopefully, if we can get the right screen, because technology is running really slow today. Book of Boba Fett coming out December 29th. And we've had another little teaser, so let's get the teaser up and running in the background whilst we chat about it. Book of Boba Fett, obviously we're looking forward to it. The promotions really started to kick in over the last few weeks. More so in America than over here, with the bounty UPS kind of tie-in over there, but we're still getting to see all the content and all the product over here as well. Latest teaser, what did you think?
I think with all the teasers, all the images they've shown, they're not giving much of anything away. They're just mood setting at the moment. We were talking about it on the podcast the other week, and we sort of compared it to the old tome poems that they did for Phantom Menace. It was just sort of setting the mood and giving you a vibe, and I think that's what they're doing here. So we've not seen an awful lot more than what we would expect, but yeah, it's just laying the groundwork in a nice way, and just the feel of it. Obviously the technology and such, it's going to make it feel like it's got that Mando vibe, of course, and obviously most of the actors, the lead actors, have sort of come into it through Mandalorian, so it's definitely got that tone about it. But yeah, I'm getting a good feeling for this. I think we're going to see some proper kick-arsery.
Do you think Bacta's going to play a big part of it in the way that Fuel has the films? Is Bacta going to be the thing that ties together the Book of Boba Fett?
It feels like it. It definitely feels like that's going to play a sizable element, because we saw Boba all scarred up and mangled, and obviously the assumption is that's how he came out of the Sarlacc pit. And then we see the first of the teasers that we saw a few weeks back, and obviously healed. So you're thinking, well, is that set before? Is that set? No, it can't be set before because he's got his armor and yada yada. So yeah, Bacta's going to play a role in it, but it's a good plot device anyway. It's kind of come into a few different sort of areas of Star Wars storytelling, isn't it, Bacta and such over the years? But yeah, I think it's certainly going to be important in this one.
Yeah, definitely. We also got a chance to see some more posters for the show as well. Beautiful design, I think, to all these posters.
Yeah, very evocative. It's the sort of thing, if we were on a celebration year, they'd be handing these out after the trailer was shown at in the main hall sort of thing. They do look very nice. And hopefully, like they did with Bad Batch and with Season 7 Clone Wars, and then obviously the two Mando seasons, a lot of characters in those got their poster each week. It was popped on StarWars.com and the socials and such. So let's hope they do a similar thing for Book of Boba Fett, because you've got to assume that each episode, like Season 2 Mando, it felt like, oh, this week it's Frog Lady, next week it's somebody else, and then it's Cobb Vanth, and then it's Ahsoka or whatever, that Book of Boba will be similar. I'm really hoping that we get to see some classic bounty hunters. So maybe there'll be, I don't know, maybe there'll be a Bosca, a Dengar, or a Valance. Lovely to see a live action Valance after all these years. Wouldn't that be cool? So yeah, I'm hoping for stuff like that.
And Fennec Shand, obviously lead character in the show, hoping to see a lot more of her, and hopefully she gets a little story aside from the Boba Fett element of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're invested in her as a character anyway, because she comes into Mando, she sort of prequelizes into the Bad Batch. Now she's the lead, the co-lead essentially in Book of Boba Fett. So from not being in Star Wars storytelling at all and appearing in season 1, episode, chapter 5, wasn't it, the gunslinger, appearing in that and then seemingly being killed, now she's been in 3 separate Star Wars projects. So I think they've put a lot of emphasis on the character, and like you say, let's hope we see more of her, because I think she's got a career that's going to be really interesting to follow, even bridging the gap between the two eras that we sort of know her in so far.
Yeah, what I kind of find interesting about the show is that we've only really had the 2 stars announced as cast members. I kind of expected to get maybe 3 or 4 more cast announcements by this point. And I wonder if we're just maybe going to get something of a surprise in there.
I think so. I mean, you think to Obi-Wan, which isn't out until sort of some point next year. We don't quite know when, but some point next year. They announced the whole cast pretty much of Obi-Wan in April last year on StarWars.com, and you're quite right. We only know these guys, Jennifer Beals, very little else. So yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know. I think my gut tells me, and me and Mark have talked about it on Making Tracks. We think there's going to be a sizable amount of flashbacks as well. So you've got your pre-Sarlacc Boba, your post-Sarlacc Boba is kind of a different guy in essentially. So I think we're going to see stuff that's more familiar to the eye, especially to OT era fans. I think they're probably. You're right. I think they're holding a lot of cool stuff back.
Moving straight on to the next story, still Book of Boba Fett. And Ming-Na Wen's obviously been out on the circuit promoting the show. And she's been talking about it as well, about the partnership between Fennec and Boba, the importance of that, and the bond, the near-death experience, and what ties them together. Do you get a chance to check out this interview?
Yeah, it's a good little interview, and Tamira did an interview talking about Filoni and how important Filoni was to him to help him navigate through the character and the storyline. They're being very careful. I think it's a bit like footballers get media trained. I think actors get media trained as well. Thankfully they've not got any Tom Hollands or anybody like that that's sort of blurting out too many spoilers. Although he's been very careful at the moment. But yeah. The crux of this one to me was when she sort of talks about how they're not bad guys, but they're not good guys either. That's the big takeaway line for me from this. That I think you and me have talked about this before, Bright. It felt like if they're doing a Star Wars series focused around Boba Fett, you can't have him being the old school Boba Fett that just goes around gunning people down. Disney's not going to have a show where you've got a proper, essentially cold-hearted villain, so they've got to humanize him to a certain degree and soften the edges. And I think with this they're giving him a different MO. He's not just a bounty hunter now. It feels like he's going into being a boss. He's taking over that concern that Jabba had, so that means he can't be quite the same guy that he used to be. And there's definitely more to that relationship with him and Fennec. So she kind of hints at they've both been through near-death experiences, her with being gunned down, Fett repairing her essentially. You think the old Fett would have put a bomb in that cybernetic stomach of hers, or some sort of control device. But this Boba is different. He is kind of a different guy, and I think that's what we're going to see in the show. But yeah, they're all being very careful about what they say. But we are only 24 days away, so it'd be a shame to blow it now.
Yeah, and obviously all thoughts on Disney Plus is kind of focused on the Book of Boba Fett at the moment. And if you turn to Star Wars publishing, everything's the High Republic really at the moment. And back in the summer we got the first of the High Republic audio dramas and the Tempest Runner from Cavan Scott's pen, and it's going to arrive in hardback as a script book March next year. So what do you think overall of the High Republic so far?
I'm enjoying what I've managed to read so far. I do tend to listen to it more than read it. It's when I'm out on the road in the car, it's a great chance to sort of catch up with stuff. And this is queued up for me to listen to. This is pretty much the next thing. So, but when they did Afra and brought it out as a written book, that was very handy. Even for seemingly daft things like spellings of names and details like that, and it's just a handy reference. Same with Dooku. So this is very welcome. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because Cavan Scott, we interviewed him recently on Cannon Fodder. Pop him in the top bloke and very easy to talk to. I don't know where he finds the time to bang out the content that he does, because pretty much everything he puts out there is top quality. And I've heard really good things about this as well. So I'm looking forward to listening. And like I say, is it March next year when this comes out?
Yeah.
Grabbing a copy of this and having a flick through it. And it's a beautiful cover as well.
Yeah, and Cavan, obviously, he did the Dooku Jedi Lost. He's got a history as well on Doctor Who franchise in terms of audio drama. So, the audio drama writing is right up his streets, right? And, he's got a huge, vast wealth from writing in that area. And Doctor Who obviously just finished the latest series tonight in the UK. We'll not spoil it for people in America that maybe haven't seen it as yet. But it's a great cover to it. It's always handy, I think, to have the books alongside the audio dramas. I struggle at times to get the focus to listen to an audio drama. I often have it on in the background and doing something else. So having a script book kind of gets me more focused for it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it is useful. That's why I try and do it in the car, because I don't get distracted by traffic or other vehicles. I just zone them out and listen to the audio. You know, when I'm at home, I've got other things to think about.
Yeah.
But don't tell the police that.
Next up, something else coming to Disney Plus, potentially next year, I think, or at least filming next year. Ahsoka, which is going to be a spin-off, basically from The Mandalorian. Rosario Dawson obviously already having appeared in that show, and we're starting to get cast announcements, or not necessarily announcements, but when it's in Variety, when it's in Deadline, you can pretty much take it as guaranteed.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim Uprising actress, Ivanna, how do you pronounce this, Mark? Because I read these all the time.
I know, and I
Sakhno?
enjoy listening to you. Sakhno, I would say, but I love you butchering names. It's worth it.
It's my trait. It's my thing to butcher a name.
Well done. It's tricky, like you say, if they're in the trades like Deadline and Variety, Hollywood Reporter, stuff like that, you kind of think, well, they've got a fairly good inside track on these things. Lucas will work with them often enough and give them exclusives, so you kind of think that that's going to be a decent avenue for reveals and news like that. And like Mark mentioned on Making Tracks recently, you know, Lucasfilm don't tend to. Oh, thank you, Paul. I'm glad you noticed. Lucasfilm don't tend to, share these things or necessarily make big announcements about names, really. So, and what she would be in the show, oh, really? At this point, we know so little about Ahsoka. It's anyone's guess. Just spitball visual looking at her, I'm thinking Imperial. She's got that kind of tone about her, but could be completely wrong. We're way too far out. But I'm so looking forward to Ahsoka. I think that's the one that I think Filoni going into live action, that's the dream project for him. And he did say recently, you know, the responsibility of sitting down and writing Ahsoka and forming and sort of moving forward with these storylines that have been percolating for years, and that you know, Favreau comes in and brings Mando and Grogu in and all these other characters sort of encroach in the best way into a storyline for Ahsoka, and that means Filoni's been nice and malleable in making it work and figuring these things out and navigating a future for the character. And now, you know, we're starting to see casting things for it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Potentially a character that may crop up in Ahsoka, or at least people kind of want it to happen. Thrawn, and we just had the final book in the series just released, and Out of Print have announced their upcoming collector's edition, which will drop next April. Lesser Evil, as always with Out of Print, literally just a beautiful cover.
Yeah, it really is. And apart from the fact I made a typo in the headline, which I need to correct as soon as we're finished. Hour of Print, idiot. It looks phenomenal. It really does. I mean, like I say, they do these beautiful. I mean, Out of Print stuff's gorgeous anyway. They do T-shirts, really classy T-shirts. I got the Heir to the Empire one a while back. The book's limited. I know you're a book guy, so you know this is going to sing to you.
750 copies, I think. $150.
Yeah, but I mean, look at it. I mean, it just looks the business, doesn't it? You know, and I think Star Wars, when Star Wars does top end stuff like this, I think this is when Star Wars products generally, just in general, are absolutely at their best. It feels bespoke and it feels unique and it just looks gorgeous.
If you were trying to buy book one in the Out of Print series in the aftermarket now, you'd be paying $2,000 plus.
Oh, okay.
So obviously everybody crushes on Blue Thrawn, especially young Blue Thrawn. It's going to be a popular cover, so I expect it will go quick. So that'll be buttons at the ready on April 26th, I think, for a lot of people to secure this one.
Absolutely. Get that thumb working, Bri. You'll be there, won't you?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a cover there, front and back, in all its glory.
Yeah, it looks superb. It really does. Beautiful artwork.
Yeah. Next up, Disney Galactic Starcruiser. I was going to play the video from this, but it's actually been removed, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I saw a mention of that on socials the other day that had been taken down.
So I wasn't particularly impressed with the video, to be perfectly honest. It looked a little bit tacky to me. And I wondered your thoughts were.
Yeah, I think this is a tricky one for Disney because, I mean, it's sold out till, July already, all the rooms. So it's kind of selling itself. And I do know a couple of people that have booked to go, and I sincerely hope they have a phenomenal time, and I'm sure they will. They've thrown so much money at this, and like I say, it kind of markets itself. But my gut tells me that, like you just said, they've pulled that video. If that video doesn't look like $1 million, because it ain't cheap, and I think the pricing they've sent out is for the cheaper cabins, isn't it? The pricing that we keep seeing, it's not for the top end ones. They could really trip themselves up. So, I mean, I think as an experience, I mentioned the word bespoke earlier, talking about the book. This, I think, is intended to feel like everybody who goes on has a slightly different experience. Like we do with everything we do, but you know what I mean? It's kind of tailored like that. So I really do hope that, Steve makes the point as well. Yeah, good point. You know, it really does feel like they've got to stick the landing to a degree for this to have a long-term life.
It's very difficult sometimes to promote something when the actual attraction is not ready.
Yeah.
And obviously there is no Galactic Starcruiser hotel at this point in time. There is no event going on that they can record at an event, so you are kind of trying to recreate it in a studio, and it's not an easy task. But yeah, when I first saw this, I kind of thought it was a cosplay kind of thing, to be honest. It just had that strange vibe. But I think, you know, I've done a lot of secret cinemas. We did the Star Wars one. It's the same kind of idea. It's the immersive experience. And sometimes it's as much of what you put into the experience.
Yeah.
As what you take
100%.
out as well.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, it totally is. I mean, I'll mention my obligatory Star Trek mention. You said the Star Trek experience in Vegas, and that was obviously Museum of the Future, beautiful restaurant, great shopping area, all based around DS9's Promenade, and they had actors, proper people in character. You couldn't trip them up, and God knows I tried. You just couldn't get them out of character, and I really hope that Disney, unlike in Galaxy's Edge, when it is shop workers who are trying to stick to a script as much as they can, they're not actors, because actors get paid a different scale. I kind of hope that they're investing in performers in this, so they really are on script as much as they can be, roll with it, you know, and don't fall out of that character, because I think if you do trip somebody up, we all know it's fake. It's called Galactic Starcruiser. The thing's never going to leave the ground, but you know what I mean. You've got to give it that. You've got to give it that vibe as best as you can.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, it's Disney, and Disney rarely fail when it comes to park experiences and hotel experiences. They are top notch when it comes to the fan experience and that kind of thing. So I think we have to wait to see what the first reactions to people that actually attend is, to get the real thing. And it could be one of that things that's very difficult to convey in a video.
I think so. And also, you know, in their defense, like Kristen Bailey did a cracking article on StarWars.com all about, you know, visiting and seeing, and she could only use the stock photographs really that they'd cleared her or anyone to use. You know, they don't want to give anything away at this point. Like you said, they've not finished it yet. It's still not complete. We're still 3 months away from it launching. So they're limited in what they can use and what they can show without people going, oh, it's just a bar, oh, it's just a script, or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. They've got to protect that illusion as much as they can, especially in the early days.
Yeah. And with that's this week's news covered. So let's head over to Jabba's Court for this week's debate. So this week on Jabba's Court, the big debate that we've got to discuss is HASLAB and the Rancor. Let me pull up a better screen than that one, because we've got a blank guest who's not here.
It's a full ghost.
It is. So basically we've got the whole HASLAB Rancor issue at the moment. The Rancor gets made if they get 9,000 backers. It ends tomorrow. It's been a bit of a drop by the PR people in terms of this, and that the initial Rancor people think's overpriced, perhaps, and the stretch goals were probably, fair to say, disappointing to a lot of people. And there's sort of two key elements I think most people thought were missing from the whole thing, which was Malachi, the Rancor keeper, and Ula that obviously the Rancor snacks on. Spoiler if you haven't seen Return of the Jedi. And they seem to be the obvious picks for characters to be included with the Rancor, and the added benefit of not seeing them in from Hasbro previously, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, well, apart from giving me the idea to launch a new section of the site called Fantha Snacks, I think bringing Malakili into the project is a good idea, because it was definitely something people wanted. But you are right. I mean, HasLab's relatively new, and it's not just HasLab Star Wars. There's HasLab G.I. Joe, HasLab everything else. You know, there's other HasLabs. Marvel are doing it. They're all doing HasLab projects. But for Star Wars, it's the third one after the Barge and the Razor Crest. Well, the Barge was something people wanted in the 80s, let alone leading up to it. It's been long wanted. The Razor Crest couldn't have been announced at a hotter time for The Mandalorian, so that was a guaranteed sell, and that did fantastically well and arrives early next year. I've got to make room for that one, but not quite sure where. But this, I think, is a tricky one, because and I wouldn't want to go so far as to say as they've botched it, because I think that is unfair. The Rancor is a character that people are aware of. It's been released many times as a 3 3/4 inch figure, and 6 inch. Now they're sort of stepping out of their regular sort of scale, and because they don't generally do big things for the 6 inch. They tried the First Order TIE Fighter, and that didn't really sell crazy great guns. So let's try it with HasLab. But you're right, you said it. You know, some of the stretch goals didn't really light people up. You look at the Razor Crest, and the stretch goals for that were like, wow, you know, you get a Mando figure, you're getting the Jawa figure, you're getting the stand, you're getting all sorts of stuff with that. With this one, it's, you know, a cardboard backing, some of the stuff that goes in the cave. It just didn't seem to light people up. So I think they've done the right thing, but I think because they're on the back foot, the perception is that they're now pandering, and I think that's slightly unfair. I think they are trying to shift direction, because like you just said, the numbers were at sort of 5,100, and then they've dropped down to sort of 4,008. Not quite sure where we are now with just a few hours to go. I had a check
just before we went live, and I think we're around about 5,400, and obviously that's just over a day to go.
Yeah, so unless the Barge had a massive late rush, and which seems crazy now that ever was in doubt. And I think from what I understand, there will be figures from other external places, like Zavi's figures will have to go in from around the world. So that number, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that number is just the HasLab, pure HasLab numbers. I think they will fold in other sort of opportunities that people have got around the globe, which will presumably bolster it. But I think it's become such a talking point now. And Malakil is a figure that people wanted in mainline anyway. But I think for various reasons, you know, sculpting costs, and you know, you put a figure like that on the shelves, and you know, so many of us say that in the morning looking in the mirror, but do you want to buy it as a Star Wars figure sort of thing? Who's going to want to get the Malakili figure, particularly? And Ula would have been an absolute guarantee. I think Ula would have probably got it over the line, because I think that's a figure people have wanted for a long time. But are Disney going to want to make a scantily clad, bikini dressed, basically sexy woman kind of character? It's a different world. It's a different balance of things they've got to find, and things have got to.
It's a Disney phrase. It's a different world.
Well, yeah, yeah, but it is though, isn't it? You know, they can sell stormtroopers wearing jumpers like this, but you know, they're going to balk at making an Ula figure. So, you know, it's a different world.
Yeah, I guess the part that interests me is I'm kind of against big corporates doing Kickstarter type fundraisers, because they're $1 billion organizations. It's not about cash flow for them. When it's a small producer, it is about cash flow. I get it from the point of view you're putting something into people's hands that they otherwise wouldn't get. But when you're doing that, you've kind of got to deliver on what people want. And I think they made a couple of mistakes in this one, in that it's a high price point during the holiday season for a product you're not going to get until 2023. That's difficult for a lot of people, just to put that money out during the holiday season for anything, especially when it's not going to be in your hands at that time. And I think as soon as you say to someone they're making a Rancor, there's the two characters that are the obvious choice that weren't in there. So I think that's the two mistakes. I think they've tried to fix it, but quite often with these things, you get the huge wave of interest at the start, or you get a huge wave at the end.
Yeah.
And they didn't get that huge wave at the start because people were kind of disappointed. And whether they're going to get it towards the end, I'm not convinced.
It's a tricky one because they put the Salacious Crumb figure in there, which had just come out as part of a Galaxy's Edge pack, so that was not unique.
Yep.
And like you say, the announcement wasn't how they wanted it to be because it kind of got leaked in error during a sort of a Hasbro fan round table thing, and that just blew up. So that it wasn't the launch that they wanted. And I think also another thing that's kind of external but relevant is that you've got a similar HasLab Kickstarter going on for the Ghostbusters backpack, which is not that much more, if any. I think there's not much in it in terms of cost, and that thing looks phenomenal. And the stretch goals on that are really clever. Clever thing. The wand is a stretch goal. The cable is a stretch goal. Just logical, clever things. It just looks $1 million. And so I think when people look at that and go, and of course Ghostbusters absolutely. Well, you saw it before anybody I know, and you loved it, and people are really fond of the film already. So I think that's engendered a lot of positive vibes. And there's going to be people. It's going to be Star Wars fans who are like, I'm buying it, whatever. And then there'll be some people who are just general movie fans who are like, what do I want? Do I want a Rancor? Do I really need this? Or do I want that backpack? Because that backpack looks amazing, And there's some people who will be on the fence about which one they're going to go for. And I think, some people will think, well, it's all Hasbro. I mean, Hasbro win in the end. But some people will think, well, I'm going to swing towards the backpack.
I don't know. Certainly in Star Wars, there hasn't been a HasLab that's failed. I don't know in the wider world of HasLabs whether there has. But it's going to be interesting to see if it doesn't make it.
That's a good point. I don't know. I mean, there's not been that many. I mean, there was that monster Transformers one.
Yep.
They did the cruiser for G.I. Joe. I think did they do an Avengers one? I think for a Marvel Avengers thing. And of course they did. They did Galactus as a HasLab, I believe, and they've just done the Sentinel. So there's been a couple of Marvel ones as well. I'm pretty sure that that's the case, but I don't believe any of them have not got over the line. So they're in difficult waters if it doesn't get over the line. And I guess, it's not been tooled up yet. I mean, that's kind of the whole point, is that the cost of tooling has got to be covered. It's a vastly expensive thing, and it's not something they'd want sitting on shelves either. It would just look horrendous. So, I think maybe they'll go for safer options. If they released a new version of the BMF Millennium Falcon, for example, as a HasLab project, that would go like that. Because it's the Falcon. So I think maybe they will swing towards what they would consider safer waters, and probably more likely stick with 3 3/4. Maybe this will sour them slightly on trying to do sort of big Black Series, even though Black Series is the big focus for them now.
Like you mentioned Falcon, isn't that like the opposite of what a HasLab should be? And that it's a guarantee to make it. Shouldn't it be a little bit more higher risk?
It should. You're absolutely right, because other than marketing it and kind of putting their reputation on the line to a degree, they're not really losing anything if it doesn't get over the line, are they? They look a bit sheepish and, okay, we made the wrong choice, or, well, the fans didn't want it, so we're not going to make it, sort of thing. And they do set the benchmark, and that's a numbers game, as you know. So, there's hello reindeer. There's certain things that, that dictate whether these things work or not. But I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me one jot if we woke up tomorrow, or is it? No, it's Monday, isn't it? It finishes Monday.
Yeah,
we get to Tuesday. Yeah, you get to Tuesday, and they go, "Wow, look at that! It made it over the line." Because it kind of feels like it needs to for their process. Now, I'm not saying they're going to botch figures or fumble figures or whatever. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But I'm just thinking this is how it kind of felt with the sail barge. It felt like it was, that's not going to make it. What a shame. It looks amazing. And then it did. So I think there's other factors to fold into those numbers if it's 5.2 or whatever it is at the moment, heading for 9. But outside of that, this Malakili, he's part of the base. If they get to 9,000, Malakili gets made. So I can't see it getting to further stretch goals.
Yeah. I don't think people would be disappointed if it didn't make the further stretch goals. This one really is about hitting the 9,000. As you say, there's other sources for numbers to roll into that could push it up very close. Yeah. If I was HasLab, I'd be adding those numbers in very early in the morning. and get those numbers up to make it seem like a possibility. You might just then encourage others to chime in, and it's going to be close. I think would be a shame if it didn't make it, but on the other hand, maybe it's what HASLAB needs, a little bit of a sharp shock, and we'll maybe get more discussion before these things are kind of produced, and a better first introduction to the piece than maybe this one did.
Yeah, I think it's all information they can use to take forward. It's all useful. Whatever happens, whether it gets over the line or doesn't, I think whatever happens, there's a lesson to be learnt. There's useful information at hand here.
And I think as much as they've got criticism for adding in the figure towards the end, it is a good sign that they're looking and listening and trying to make amends. It's a difficult one. You can't win either way. You can criticise them, but they have tried to improve the offering. So, it's a double-edged sword. But I guess for this time of the year, it's a snowball in the face for HASLAB.
Thank you. Hey, I think so. It is. It's tricky, but I think we'll know more next week. Certainly, we'll know more next week. We'll certainly be covering this news on the site.
Yeah. And I think with that, it's time to wrap up the show. Mark, thanks for joining us. What can we look forward to coming up next week from Fantha Tracks?
Loads of news and a couple of podcasts. New Making Tracks coming out on Tuesday. Planet Layer's back after about 18 months away on Friday, and I've edited the episode and it's come out really well. So it's Claire and Johanna back on Planet Layer. So looking forward to people hearing that. And then we'll just make some more plans for some more podcasts. Hopefully some more cannon fodder, and finally next year, start your engines. I promise, Paul, start your engines next year.
Next week is Farthest From in the UK, convention down in the south of England. What can we expect there? You're going to be there. You're going to be one of the hosts.
I am. That's going to be a real busy one. A great show for Fantha Tracks. We always get loads of content out of that. So there's 2 days. There's Farthest From on the Sunday, which is the Vintage Collectors show. There's the Star Wars Family Fun Day, basically, on the Saturday. And at the show this year, we've got Neil Scanlon coming to do a talk with my good self, which I'm very much looking forward to doing. Brian Herring, who's there on the evening for Mon Cal Con, which is the Christmas meal. Again, that'll be great fun. And there will be Guy Henry, who was Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, because it's Rogue 5. It's the 5th anniversary of Rogue One, so we're celebrating Rogue One. So I'll be talking to all those guys, and then, as I say, evening meal, and then the next day, Farthest From. So we're going to be recording everything, and then on the Sunday, in the room upstairs, me and Mark doing a live episode of Making Tracks. But Carl from Desert Planet's there, Paul from Start Your Engines, which people will hear next year soon, and myself, and as I said, Mark's there, my co-host on Making Tracks. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. Always is.
Final important question. Is it turkey and all the trimmings?
It's turkey and all the trimmings, Brian. Of course it is. What else would it be?
Just checking. And as Matt's there saying it, give Guy a slice of stolen pizza.
And a bottle of red wine. Yeah,
bottle of red wine.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mark, for joining this week. Everyone as well in the chat room for all your contributions as well. We love hearing from you guys whilst we're doing the show as well. We'll be back next week with another show. We'll find out what happens with HASLAB and what else happens in the meantime. We don't know, because that's the exciting part, is that Star Wars news is always fresh and current every single week, and we'll be bringing it you all live. So join us again, 9 o'clock in the UK, 4 o'clock Eastern if you're American side of the world, and figure out the time from then if you're anywhere else. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, bye.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on FanthaTracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantha Tracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantha Tracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live show.